Hi, I'm going to be talking about sleep deprivation and obesity. So, what is sleep deprivation? Sleep deprivation is defined as a sufficient lack of restorative sleep over a cumulative period so as to cause physical or psychiatric symptoms and affect routine performances of tasks. Side effects of sleep deprivation may include excessive daytime sleepiness, accidents from lack of attention, moodiness, or hunger. So it's estimated that 50 to 70 million of adults in the United States have a sleep or wakefulness disorder. So some of the key sleep disorders are insomnia, narcolepsy, restless leg syndrome, and sleep apnea. The National Institutes of Health suggests that school-age children have 10 hours of sleep per day, teens have 9 to 10 hours of sleep per day, and adults have 7 to 8 hours of sleep per day. And getting into some of the statistics of sleep deprivation in the United States, results from the National Health Interview Survey indicate that 30% of adults get actually less than or equal to 6 hours of sleep per day. 37.9% of adults report unintentionally falling asleep during the day at least once in the previous month, which indicates sleep deprivation. And short sleep duration is more common among those ages 20 to 39 years at 37%, and 40 to 59 years at 40.3%, compared to those ages 60 or older at just 32%. And some findings from the 2014 Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System indicate that less adults get 7 hours of sleep in states in the southeastern region of the U.S. and the Appalachian Mountains. And these areas also tend to have higher rates of obesity and chronic conditions. And people who were unable to work or were unemployed had lower sleep duration than those who were employed. And healthy sleep duration was ranked highest among those with a college degree. So you can kind of see in the map here that it is the southeast region that tends to have the most sleep deprivation versus the northwest. And this is the map of people aged 18 and older who have obesity. And again, the southeast tends to have the highest rates of obesity, just like sleep deprivation. So according to the Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System survey, adults who were short sleepers, which means less than 7 hours of sleep per 24-hour period, were more likely to report being obese, physically inactive, and current smokers compared to people who got more than 7 hours of sleep in 24 hours. And the National Sleep Foundation suggests that adults sleeping less than 7 hours per night and school-age children who sleep less than 9 hours per night are at a higher risk of gaining weight and having poor health outcomes than those with adequate sleeping habits. So this chart just kind of shows some of the health risk factors associated with short sleep duration. So we can see obesity is one and being physically inactive is another. And people who have less than 7 hours of sleep had 33% obesity and 27.2% were physically inactive. So healthy sleep is not only sleep quantity, but also sleep quality. Studies have shown that lack of sleep may lead to increased snacking, increased meal consumption per day, and the preference for energy-dense foods. So some of the mechanisms with how sleep deprivation can lead to obesity can be caused through a lack of energy to participate in physical activity, more opportunities to eat, and a disruption in the balance of key hormones that regulate appetite. So you can kind of see here, sleep deprivation is leading to changes in appetite hormones, hedonic aspects of food intake, which means more time to eat, and a rewarding value of food, and decreased physical activity. And these all lead to increased energy intake, decreased energy expenditure, and that causes obesity. So the first mechanism is hormone regulation. Decreased sleep levels may directly impact the appetite regulating hormones ghrelin and leptin. Leptin is secreted by adipose tissue and it suppresses hunger and appetite, and ghrelin is secreted by the stomach, which increases hunger and appetite. So in a state of sleep deprivation, the body signals that energy levels are low, and so in response, leptin decreases and ghrelin increases. So the body feels more hunger and decreased satiety, which leads to increased food consumption and weight gain. So in a crossover study conducted in a sleep lab, men who slept for 4 hours versus those who slept for 12 hours experienced a 20% drop in circulating leptin levels. The leptin reduction following 6 nights of sleep loss was comparable to that observed in healthy young men who underwent a 3-day 900 calorie per day energy restriction. And in another study that induced 1 night of total sleep deprivation, there was a 22% increase in circulating ghrelin levels in 9 healthy men. And so another study which kind of combines the two shows that in a study of 12 men who were subject to 2 4-hour sleep nights, they had an 18% leptin drop, an increase in circulating ghrelin of 28%, increased hunger by 24%, and increased appetite by 23%. So in conclusion, leptin and ghrelin levels may be significantly affected by sleep loss, directly impacting appetite and hunger. Sleep deprivation may also affect the rate of food consumption and food choices. So sleep deprivation may cause an increase of carbohydrate and fat and cravings for calorie-dense foods, suggesting sleep deprivation makes these foods more rewarding. So neuroimaging studies have shown that pictures of appealing foods trigger a greater response and reward relevant brain regions after sleep restriction than after a period of full rest. So additionally, being awake longer means having more opportunities to consume food throughout the day. So in a randomized crossover study of sleep restriction in adolescents, it revealed an increase in appeal for sweets and desserts during sleep restriction versus in healthy sleep duration. A sleep manipulation had no impact on the appeal of non-sweet foods, only those that were sweet. And there was an 11% increase in intake of total calories. And consumption of sweet and dessert foods increased by 52% in sleep restriction. And the last mechanism is decreased energy expenditure. So activity-related energy expenditure, or AEE, is the most variable component of the total energy expenditure and plays a major role in the homeostatic control of body weight. Studies have shown that subjects with sleep problems and/or excessive daytime sleepiness report a significant reduction in their levels of physical activity and energy. And so there's a lack of motivation to exercise following a lack of sleep. So sleep deprivation leads to obesity through increased energy intake, imbalance of hormones, and in decreased energy expenditure. Studies show our brains treat energy-dense foods as rewards during sleep deprivation. 1 in 3 adults don't get enough sleep, and it's a coincidence because 1 in 3 adults are actually overweight. Studies have shown that there does exist a relationship between sleep and obesity. However, sleep and obesity are related, but correlation versus causation is unclear. Sleep can lead to weight gain, but weight gain and obesity may also impact sleep. Sleep deprivation may affect food desirability and activity levels, but these may not meet previous standards or guidelines prior to the lack of sleep. So in other words, some people might be making unhealthy choices before they lose that lack of sleep or have that sleep deprivation. So in conclusion, sleep deprivation is just one piece of the pie that is obesity. While sleep deprivation may impact appetite regulating hormones, food choices, and activity levels, I don't think that it's the sole cause of obesity. In my opinion, I think it might contribute about 15%, if that, to obesity. And I think that other factors such as genetics, education, and socioeconomic factors may have a greater impact on food choices and activity levels, which could lead to obesity more so than the actual sleep deprivation causing those choices.